And it's all about other people at the end of the day. Everything that we do in life, when we really think about it, one of the things I always tell people is you have to reinvest in yourself. I don't know what the statistics say, but I think it was at least 5% or 10%. I'm probably way above that in terms of investing in my education, myself. Thought I was gonna write one book, and then as I started writing, I realized I was writing 2 books. Then it was like, okay, well, I want to touch everyone. I don't want to just touch the English speaking. I want to teach those that speak Mandarin, Spanish, Italian, French.
Stop going it alone. Yes, folks, that is the message for you today. We're going to talk about teamwork and how the value of connection can dramatically transform your life and your career. So here we are, Career and Mission Growth, another episode for you, where we're going to be talking about lessons learned by a former athlete who's been through the educational realm and now is developing an incredible professional career where we can help you with things like finance, accounting, cash flow, and a whole lot more besides. But there's one thing we want you to take away from this is if you go it alone, things aren't going to work out for you. Welcome to my guest today. This is Ambro Blackwell. Ambro, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good. Where are you coming to from? I know you're out in California. What city are you based in?
Yeah, today I'm in Riverside, California.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been there a few times from my times living out there in California myself for a long time ago. More driving through, or I think I ran a 5K there once or a 10K. I don't remember what it was. All right. Well, look, we're going to help people today. And why don't we dive straight in and talk about, when we were talking in the green room just before, you emphasized a couple of things to me. And the first thing that you said out of your mouth was teamwork. And that's how we got to the topic, really, of what we're going to flow through today. So tell us what that means to you, and then tell us a little bit about your background and why that's important for you right now.
Well, teamwork means everything. There's a phrase, teamwork makes the dream work. A lot of people have dreams. They're looking at going to college, they're looking at education, whether it's trade or anything else, because they do have a dream. They do have a plan. They have a, plan for a better hope than where they're at today. And, teamwork is really what got me, where I am now, and what's going to get me where I'm going, in the future. I learned as a kid, learned that playing sports. Some of the best sports were team-oriented sports. Did it in college, and using that skill set and those opportunities helped leverage, my ability to not only learn, but to also grow. And that has made a huge, significant difference in career choices, opportunities, job opportunities, networking opportunities, you name it.
Great. Okay. Well, so tell us a little bit where it all began. So now you've got this philosophy of teamwork. Where did it come from? I know you mentioned to me about being an athlete. So tell us a little bit about your athletic career. Maybe we start there, and then, but catch us up to date. However fast or slow you want to go, we've got time to dive in. So you tell me.
Yeah, it's as a kid, you're just finding out what you like. Basketball is what really drew to me. More than anything else. I ran the point guard position, shooting guard
I was
position.
going to ask that. You already answered.
And you're doing a lot of coordinating. You're doing a lot of delegating. You're looking at your strengths. You're looking at your weaknesses and things of that nature. But you have your team. This is your deck of cards. I'm a big fan of saying you've got a deck of cards. You got to find a way to win with those decks or with that deck. And so a lot of it had to do with, seeing, okay, well, this team might be tall, this team might be fast, but how can we win? How can we get ahead? And one thing you realize is that it's much easier, when you have a team together. You may not have it going that night. You may not be as strong, that night. You may not be, you might be somewhat health compromised, maybe have a cold or things of that nature. So, you realize the leverage and the benefits of having a team. You also get feedback. You understand dedication. So, I translate that over from sports into, education. A lot of that was anything from maybe you missed something that your instructor, didn't share. Maybe someone else has an experience or understanding that maybe it'll help you to be able to understand that math problem. Maybe it might be just you having to have someone that you teach the concepts to so that it sticks with you. So these are all different things that help you when you have another warm body, regardless of race, religion, color, creed, orientation, things of that nature. We talked a little bit earlier about college. You have students that come here from another country. They may not be as familiar with the area.
Yeah.
Well, those are great people as well, because if you lend a hand to those individuals, you never know where they're going to be. They might be running a company and they may remember that you were that first person that reached out to them. You were that one person who was willing to work with them. So there's so many different things when you look at the leverage of teamwork that helps you pay it forward even for yourself, that it's hard not to even think about doing things alone. It's all about the team and the quality of the team, and also at the same time, you realize for yourself, are you pulling your weight? Is your team member pulling your weight? So these are all things that are used in the business world, in the world of employment, in the world of just networking and friendship and things of that nature. So you get to learn at an early age where like sports is a nice, fun environment to teach you lessons that you can carry on into your other life or later in your life and your career.
Yeah. So let's dive into some of this stuff because I want to talk. I'm sure you've got some really good advice about how to be good at networking, relationships, connections, and create this team. But I want to dive in a little bit on what were the challenges you faced. So what do you think's tough about this? Why do people have a hard time creating a team around them? That teamwork to dream work. If they want their dream and they know they need a team, what are some of the things that people are going to come up against that they're going to have to push through or overcome those hurdles?
It's hard to really say what are some of the reasons, because for me, I started off early. Like I said, sports forces you and encourages you into this teamwork environment. But what I will say, and what I can think of top of mind is uh, sometimes people think speed. I can get there quicker if I go on my own. And that might be true, but you may not go as far, and often that's not the case. And so, depending on, how quickly, the other thing is ego. Ego might get in the way. Oh, well, I'm smarter than this person. Oh, he's just a girl, or he's just a boy. She's just a girl, or whatever the case may be. And so you may look better or think down upon the other person, not realizing that this person may just be more of an introvert. They may not have warmed up yet, things of that nature. So there's a lot of different reasons why someone might think about going it alone. It's just not the way the world works. The way the world works is you need to be able to leverage, other people. And a lot of times that's their experience, their education, their background, their insights, their knowledge.
Yeah. You mentioned speed. I love that quote. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You ever heard that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. And then yeah, ego. I see egoic behavior all the time, and I'm guilty of this. I knew in a competitive corporate environment, I made the mistakes of going it alone and elbowing people out of the way unwittingly, and not realizing the amount of hardship or pain or suffering I was causing for those individuals. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think people need to hear that your self-perception is nowhere near as valuable as the other people's perspectives. So tell us a little bit more then about the challenges personal to you. I know I asked that, but I'm going to kind of keep pushing here and find a little bit. You started early and you realized this was important, but where did you meet resistance? Maybe on the athletic field, or maybe in education, or maybe you'll see some of that in your professional career now. Where have you seen some resistance?
Well, there's always resistance. I mean, there's resistance in every shape, form, or facet. Without a resistance, you don't grow. Just like as an athlete, you have to tear those muscles to get stronger. So the resistance, allows you to have the opportunity to decide if you're going to be persistent in getting through and pushing through that barrier, that goal, or whatever it is that you need to make or take. So, like I said, some resistance with whether it's sports, whether I was younger or older. Maybe this team is younger, maybe this team is faster, maybe this team is taller. So you have to find a way to win. What's your angle? What's your best opportunity to win? Let the best team win in the end after you've executed to the best of your ability. It could be, in your studies, depending on what you were or who you were, for myself, what you had to deal with. Some people growing up in school, maybe they had to work and go to school. Maybe it was college, you had to work and go to school. I remember it was always my accounting classes that were the roughest and the toughest to some degree, because that required a lot more dedication. Even though I felt naturally gifted in accounting, that kept me up at night because there was less people that I could rely on, because not everyone loved accounting. So here I am working, and after I get off of work, now I actually have to focus on the accounting aspect. And those are not quick reads. They're not like history or other storytelling books where you can speed read through. you speed read through, you might realize or miss a formula or different key points of whatever it is that you need to interpret. So there's always a resistance. Now you're resisting fatigue. Your body wants to go to sleep and you're pushing against your ability or desire to go to sleep. Again, it's another common trait that I like to link to sports. You're tired, you're fatigued, you've given it everything. Your opponent is trying to keep you from scoring, is trying to keep you from, winning the game, but you're trying to push through to find a way to, persevere. So a lot of these things happen. You might be on a job and have, a tough boss or a tough coworker or things of that nature. That could be resistance, but you have to find a way to to win. You have to find a way to be supportive, encouraging it, whatever it needs to be to help to get your team member on the same page, to win or find a goal that you guys are looking to accomplish in that organization. You have to find a way to, bridge that gap. And those are sometimes some of the resistance that you come across.
Yeah. So perhaps you walked into this one. So tell us about that, because you play basketball, you play point guard, and there's 4 other guys on the court at any one time, but there's also a bunch on the bench waiting. Did you ever have a tough teammate or a tough opponent that you could tell us a personal story about, and what the value of teamwork is, or perhaps how you overcame having that tough relationship?
I've had great teammates, across the board. It's harder, when you're talking about sports in particular, choosing your team. We get to choose our group of friends. We get to choose the organizations that we work at. In some cases, eventually at some point in your career, you do at least. But you can't control everything, and so you have to be able to find out what motivates that person, and really be able to be supportive around that. All of us have weaknesses, sometimes insecurities, things of that nature. Now, you may not know all that up front, but that's where team bonding, building, and things of that nature come into place. And it happens in, every respect, whether it's college, high school, Pee Wee League, corporate environment, boardroom. It's the time that you spend, with those individuals, being able to share common goals and things of that nature, that you're able to build that equity with that person to be able to trust you and to take your support and take that guidance. And a lot of times you got to give to get.
Yeah, I love that. You went through 4 points there really, really quickly. First one was motivation, understanding those people's motivations. So if they're not somebody who you're getting on with, this could be a boss or a coworker or your coach or another teammate on your team. I think that's important. They also have internal fears. They have universal doubts, just like any other human does. So once you understand those, you can move closer and have connection. And I think that's where you talked about bonding. And bonding is one thing about how you share commonality between the two of you. But the last one, which I really liked, is invest some time to actually build the relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think about, in my business, a lot of people they're gifted. And you mentioned your gifted abilities with accounting. So people are gifted, they're knowledgeable, they're skillful, so they have all the other talent in the world, but they still find themselves blocked. What do you think's creating that for them? Why are they getting that block?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say without knowing, the individual, because there could be a one-time circumstance that take place, in someone's life, whether it's death of a friend, family. There's all kinds of things that can throw somebody off. Outside of that, you'd really have to kind of get to know what, and that's assuming that you've had enough opportunity and time to figure that out with that, that group or that individual.
So let's now talk maybe about some of the cool stuff that you've done that you see is extremely effective in creating the teams you've worked in. Perhaps you can give us an example, either from athletics, from education, or even in your professional career, where you've really seen this is a high-performing team, and some of the characteristics are, and what would those characteristics be?
It's a variety. It kind of comes together. A lot of times it's grit, it's determination, it's if you're looking at from an athletic perspective, you might look at their physique. You might look at their height, you might look at their shape of their bodies, maybe they're muscular, maybe they're fit, things of that nature. And then you'll start taking some assumptions, obviously. If you've been able to see them play, if you've been able to, find out details or research, those are things that will help as well. Now you obviously have to look and find your checks and balances. Is what you heard, what you saw accurate in alignment with what you have a perception of that team or that individual? And that happens a lot with, choosing, friends, choosing organizations you may work for. Is what's the reputation of this organization? What's the reputation of the persons that or person or persons that I'll be working for? And so you do that obviously with Google News, things of that nature. If it's a large enough company, you might look at their annual reports. You'll look at different things that will help you. You may look at, review sites that, and you're the expert on this when it comes to careers. There's a number of different job boards that you might look at to find different types of feedback. You'll look at different sources in social media. So there's a lot of different things that you can look at in terms of trying to figure out, okay, does this align with what I want and what I need and who I'm looking to work with? And then you obviously match that up to see if that actually holds true in your opinion.
Yeah. No, and I love some of those points. You talked about, understanding each other's capabilities. That means understanding your own capabilities and then what do you bring versus what else is in the team. Yeah, you also mentioned in there about creating, perhaps evaluating and then testing particular hypothesis that the team may have, but collectively, can we look at this from a number of different perspectives? And I think that that's the value. And in what you said there, it came across to me that valuing the perspective of other people is extremely powerful as it relates to teamwork and why doing anything on your own misses that other person's perspective. So you only have self-perception, and self-perception's not reality.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, let's shift gears a little bit. I know that right now you're working in the financial world, and you are somebody who's an expert in loans, cash flow strategy, financing, accounting. So perhaps tell us a little bit more about what's going on for you in your world right now, and and we'll dive into some of those topics, and maybe better help people about how seriously you've taken your career. I'm admiring your career from a distance here.
And it's all about other people at the end of the day. Everything that we do in life, when we really think about it, you can't sell or provide a product or service without thinking about the audience, the recipient, the intended person that's going to use, buy, or purchase your product or service. So I'm always looking at that. I'm looking at what's happening in the markets, what's happening in different industries, doing a lot of research and reading and reporting, I guess, to some degree. But in addition to that, one of my areas that I've carved out is writing and thought leadership. And I'm looking at different things that I can contribute to the market to help better educate people that are in the capacity to need finance. A lot of that comes with cash flow. A lot of that comes with lending. And so there's different things that are taking place. The interest rate environment is still high. That impacts cash flow. Business owners, they're always small, medium-sized businesses. They're always in need of, access to capital. So obviously I wrote the book, Small Business Loans Made Simple, that became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And right now I'm in the process. I have it translated in about 10 languages.
Whoa, that's good.
So it's been edited. It's going through formatting right now in Spanish. I'm learning about AI, in terms of being able to, how can I use this in a safe and a respectable way to make sure that I can reach and touch more people. So I've got a lot on my plate as it relates to that. I'm re-recording the audiobook because there's a huge audience, obviously, that, would rather listen to, what my message is than to read it. And so, a key thing is being able to touch everyone and meet everyone where they're at.
I like that. The understanding of learning styles is that, not everybody's visual, not everybody, some people are auditory and that would be their learning style. So that while they're out walking, listening to Ambro is going to be a much better way for them to absorb. And so that's good. That's a really good example of being people-centric that other people might not think about. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's powerful.
Absolutely.
You also talked in there about research, writing, thought leadership. Perhaps give us a framework for, how much time do you spend on research before you write anything? Or are you somebody who kind of thinks you can speak extemporaneously, like we're having that conversation now? It's just kind of off the cuff conversation. None of this is prepped, we do this raw. How much of that, what suits you? Are you just somebody who naturally writes, or do you actually spend a lot of time researching so that you can put a really good thought leadership content piece out?
They go hand in hand. It's kind of like teamwork to some degree. And that's what some of the tools that are out there should be, I believe best used for, so you don't lose your authenticity. For me, it's all about the intended recipient. At the end of the day, I probably think way too much about what's going on and how I can connect with people and individuals. But the research helps to make sure, again, validate, what I'm thinking might be true. The research helps in terms of making sure that, I'm delivering it in the best way that I know how and can, from a financing perspective, do it as well. So everyone has to deal with cash flow, whether it's on a business level or personal level, to be able to continue to survive and to grow and to thrive. So I use both, but ultimately it comes from, the continual years of experience, seeing what's happening with individuals and businesses and things of that nature. And I married the two, to try to provide the best content, the best information. And as you know, things change. Things can change on a heartbeat, as we noticed in 2020. So there's and then it's looking at and saying, okay, how can I make the most out of each scenario, each situation and opportunity?
Hey, this is James. I'm jumping in the middle of the video here because I want to let you know that there's an opportunity by clicking the link in the description underneath this video to meet me for 30 minutes. In that meeting, I will give you 2 or 3 strategies or 2 to 3 big ideas that will change your career, your mission, your business, and maybe even your life if you'll commit to acting on those things. Now, I want to let you know, I'm not there to sell you anything. I don't have anything to sell you, but I do want to have a conversation with you so you can get into momentum and start to execute against your priority activities. Yeah. And you mentioned AI. So what role is that playing? Are you able to leverage AI to expedite your process, adjust your process? And if yes, what kind of AI tools are you using that anybody else who's interested in sharing more of their thoughts in their writing might kind of do that with you? So firstly, are you leveraging AI tools? Second question is, which ones and how do you find that that's helping you?
Yeah, I'm leveraging AI tools. I'm trying to at least, that goes with, and this goes back to teamwork. A lot of networking, a lot of connections, finding out who I know that knows more than me in the tech space and the AI space and things of that nature. So I've purchased a lot. That's one of the things I always tell people is you have to reinvest in yourself. And, I don't know what the statistics say, but I think it was at least 5% or 10%. I'm probably way above that in terms of investing in my education, myself. And I think that's a good foundation for some of the success that people think or that I believe I have. So obviously ChatGPT, that's something I look at, as a sounding board to give me ideas of things I might want to talk about. So I might, type out, a couple of different phrases, a couple of different things and see what it comes back with. And then I will then take that and say, okay, all right. So, unfortunately, we're time starved, and our attention is being pulled in so many different directions with the different, mediums out there, whether it's social media, TV, or just, individuals or work demands. So it helps quite a bit to help brainstorm, what I want to talk about, what, content I might want to, put together. That's the main one that I use. I've started looking into learning more about different ones like Dolly and things of that nature. In addition to, and I think I just answered that, how I actually use it is I'll use it really more as just a soundboard. Because a lot of times you still have to fact check, the information and make sure it's accurate and things of that nature. What I'm also looking into that I haven't fully completely decided on yet, what tool or what resource is cloning my voice. So that's one that, obviously you have to be really concerned and careful about. But it's also, again, it's here to stay and it's here to grow. So it's how can you use this in a way that still is you? Is it something that I write out the content, and now that the model knows my voice, and now instead of me having to worry about my voice, is it scratchy or things of that nature? Am I not feeling well today? Maybe I can go ahead and use my voice that's been cloned to produce still something that's authentic to me. So it's one of those things that you have to continue to try, test, measure, and see if it works for you or not.
I love that you talked about time starved. So time is often thought about as the most valuable resource. I actually think it's what you said is that attention is actually the most valuable resource. If you've got a small amount of time, it still matters where your attention is. So that's actually, a much better way for people to be thinking about, what am I actually focused on? Yeah. So well, tell us this, because you mentioned the first book, and that was a Wall Street Journal bestseller. That was Small Business Loans Made Simple. And you and I
Yes.
had talked about you're actually producing another book now. And as I think about what you were saying there about AI, and I know you're early in your process, this is not something that's going to hit the shelf soon. But for people who are watching this later than when we recorded it, you've turned up at the right time, because we can update the link below, and if it's there, go and have a look. So tell us a little bit about that journey, and what's this next book about?
Yeah, it's actually for the most part written. I'm actually adding some pieces to it because there's some key components I think that would be helpful for the audience, the reader to know, because I wrote both books technically at the same time. And the thought process was, this book that I have out now, while it will help the majority of business owners, regardless of where they're at in their entrepreneurship journey, it's really more focused to businesses that are already established. This next book is going to focus more on people that are wanting to go into business, and they may be looking to leave corporate America to start their own venture, or they may be coming out of college wanting to start their own venture. So this is more of someone who's looking at it from a different perspective, because the needs, the education is a little bit different. It's kind of like, being in a room and you've got darts and you're trying to throw it and hit a bullseye. You're already in the room, as a business owner, and now we're trying to move the darts closer, versus going into the room and the room is dark, and now you're throwing darts, trying to hit the bullseye. So it's a little bit different, which is part of the reason why I decided to write two. But the questions and the things that you'll need, to establish and help, create a cash flow, to maintain the cash flow for lending, is going to be a little bit different.
Awesome. And so that's very much for the employee to entrepreneur journey. So those people who are career professionals, who had an idea or maybe delayed their dream, but this is for those folks. And if you're a student and I always say, if you're 18 years old and you haven't started a business now, start a business, because you've got plenty of time. It doesn't matter if you don't spend enough time on it now, but you've got the rest of your life to make sure that business comes alive doing something, even if you want to go and do other endeavors, but have that business going. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And, you might be in corporate America, and you may feel like the C-suite is something you don't want anymore. Maybe you've risen to the point that you've gone as far as you can in this company. Maybe you love the company, and maybe you now want to do something else that helps you provide fulfillment. I've seen that a lot of times with athletes who never made it professional, but they still want to be close to the game. So they might do some things that are aligned in the sport that they love, while they still, transition into corporate life.
Yeah, I'm looking at the international soccer market now, where the agents and the recruiting managers and the directors of sport are becoming as famous as the players.
Yes.
And we think about point guards as Magic Johnson and Steph Curry, and one of my favorites all time is John Stockton, and there's these wonderful players. But now we're seeing a different level of fame for the people who are behind the scenes making all of this happen.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, tell us more about that. I think that's interesting, fascinating. What do you think is out there for people who aren't in front of the camera, actually working backstage? Now you've brought that up, there's probably lots of opportunities or ideas that you've got in your head to share with folks.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, I used to be on the board of an organization called National Black MBA. We used to always have a series, I think they still do, called The Business of Sports. And a lot of times, because if you think about it, to make it to a professional level, you're talking about the best of the best of the best. You might be the hot shot in high school. Well, college, there's another level. And that might be junior varsity, or not junior varsity, but junior college. Well, there's another level above junior college. There's different divisions. Sometimes it's Division II, Division I, and there's levels within that. Then you've got the pro, whether it's and it's hard to say, because the European leagues or national leagues sometimes are better than the United States leagues. But you got different layers and levels, and you're talking about, slicing, and cutting back and really trimming that number down to the point where there's a lot sometimes that goes into it beyond just, being pure talented. Sometimes it might be opportunity. Sometimes someone might take a gut, check on one person, and they maybe should have went with you. There's so many different layers and levels to, competition, that people just, they have to be able to understand that, everything that you went through to become this elite, great talent might still be able to be used in different facets of the business as an ecosystem altogether.
You just left a really big success clue. So I want to kind of play it out for people listening, that a membership in an association or a mastermind or a community, and I dislike the word like-minded. You actually want to go into a community where there are lots of different minds who can give you that perspective. And what you're talking about there just opens up, and you said it beautifully, the kind of opportunities for you that you cannot see, but you can only get access to them if you're in those groups. So I would implore everybody, but I think you said it. I'm just kind of reminding people that being
Yeah.
an association changes the game for you. What else? You got anything else to say on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of those things that I wish that I understood, as a child, going into college, even in college. The big benefit, I was a big networking, individual. But having exposure to other people, especially people that don't look like you, whatever that is, it helps you really understand, more of what's out there, what the world is really like. Because I would have been in so many different associations and so many different groups and things of that nature that I would have had different or more opportunities. And, normally you want to be able to make sure you've made the best out of the options available to you. So I don't think that anyone should have any regret, but at the same time, like you said, I think it's really important because there's a lot of high concentration diversity that takes place in a lot of associations.
I totally agree. I grew up in white middle class England, probably in the upper echelon of that, with no real appreciation of what was going on from a diversity. And for my first exposure to it wasn't until I was 18, 19 and I got to university when I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, this is life. Because my experience of life had been very different, and it had been very myopic or very narrow. And so I'm glad you bring that up, because then that was, that exacerbated the more time I spent in metropolitan cities. If I was in London, I'd see that incredibly multicultural, diverse experience. And then I came to America, and of course, it's a completely different landscape again. And so I then experienced a lot more Indian culture that I was exposed to, a lot more Asian culture that I've been exposed to, but especially African American culture. That frankly is the differences between Europe and America are stark when it comes to what multicultural looks like, because it's just not the same. And so I'm privileged to now have had all that experience, but yeah, my upbringing gave me a lot of problems. So I'm glad to be out of that and see things and not stay silent on things now, where I can be more vocal. So thank you for bringing that up. I think it's a really important point.
Yeah, and college is a great place to do it. I think of college as a step away or in the middle ground between your adult life and how you came up up till high school and things of that nature. So you get that opportunity to start really diversifying yourself, so to speak, in terms of the relationships and the connections and the understandings and things of that nature.
I think, college was kind of has just lifted the lid on things for me. I really was, I didn't realize how insular my life was until that time, that I just followed this very traditional British upbringing, and things changed a lot for me at that point, and made me think about what would be my international experience, because I clearly I'm not ready to stay here, even though it took me another 15 to 20 years to leave the UK. I still was looking for opportunities all along, and there were opportunities, and my story is incredible. We're kind of sharing about how they never came to pass. I do want to talk about some of your advisory points, but if you don't mind, I'd like to go stay personal and learn more about you and what's next. You got the book coming. You're doing the thought leadership content. What's next for you? Where are you going? What are you going to be focused on? Maybe in the next, I think 5 years is too long a time frame, but maybe in the next 2 years. What's next for Ambro?
Yeah, there's 5 years is It's funny because things change and they go so fast. It's really doing more of the same. It's, how can I repackage and deliver, not only wide, but also deep. So, it's funny because if we're talking about from the book perspective, I thought I was going to write one book. And then as I started writing, I realized I was writing two books. Then it was like, okay, well, I want to touch everyone. I don't want to just touch the English speaking. I want to touch those that speak Mandarin, Spanish, Italian, French, you name it. And then it's like, how many different ways can I get this in the hands of other people? How can I also be able to help coach? Because some people, they may, so taking a step back. Part of the reason I wrote the book is because I did all of the events. I was one of the speakers at all the different events, Access to Capital, Access to Capital. And it was always the same questions. And what I kept finding and realizing is that in 45 minutes, taking small business owners out of their offices or on a Saturday or evening or whatever it may be, there was no way in my opinion, we were able to really give them enough to get them from point A to Z or point A to Y. Maybe they can find their way to Z. And so I decided to go ahead and write something that I thought was going to be like, here's the book that will help you get 90% of the way type of thing. And then I started realizing that it continued to evolve. And so that's part of what I'm looking at is how can I go ahead and go wide and how can I go deep? So eventually what I'll probably start doing is actually going vertical integrated as well. So in probably 3-4 years from now, I'll start talking about small business lending for the construction industry, small business lending for teens, small business lending for, healthcare, things of that nature, where now I might be able to dive a little bit deeper down in specifics to, the individuals that need it and want it the most. And then maybe I might wrap back around and do a revised, edited version because, unfortunately or fortunately, change is inevitable.
Yeah, I like this. It's super powerful. And maybe there's a lesson in this for everybody is that you can be maybe one of two types of people. One person can create an incredibly deep and narrow relationship with maybe 20 people. But what you're sharing is, no, I actually want to leave a legacy that's going to touch millions and millions, maybe billions of people around the planet who get to, at one point, not just see my name, but to see my books and my body of work. And I think that's so powerful because when I talk to my clients about growth, I always say, well, you must be yourself, build connections. It's just fascinating that we're talking about teamwork today, because that's the second thing that I think after you know who you are, you need that team. And then the last thing is to create something of magnitude. So I just want to applaud you for doing something of this magnitude in multiple languages that's going to go around the world. And so I'm super excited to see the outputs,
Absolutely.
and I'm now going to be one of the first ones to go out and buy another one of your books. So it'll still be on the Wall Street bestseller list. So that's good. So maybe give us a sneak peek. If we were to take that book and we, take the summary of that book, are there 2 or 3 things in this next book for employees to entrepreneurs thinking about financing and cash flow about that you would say is okay to give them without the publisher rapping us on the knuckles? But I want people to be able to start thinking about these things so they can do something about it. When the book is in their hands, they can go faster.
Repeat that one more time because I actually like that comment. I'm actually going to use that in the book, from employee to entrepreneur. So I had to jot that down.
I'm looking for what are the 2, 3 lessons in the book that you think are most important that in somebody in preparation for getting their hands on that book, you can have them already thinking, hey, look, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a blueprint. I'm going to give you a map before you walk into the woods. You're going to need that map.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 things I want you to know right now. And then also this is a precursor for you saying, look, go out and get the first book, and then when the second book lands, you can add that to your library.
Yeah, because there's probably going to be anywhere between 40 to 60% of the same. I talk about how to master the relief model. It's a systems of process, where it stands for the acronym of the R is the request, E is the evaluation of it, L is the layout or the structure, I is the information that's needed, E is the engagement or the approval, and F is the funding. And so with that, in addition to that, I talk about how to build your team. So I have questions that you need to ask your accountant, that you need to ask your attorney. And typically when I say accountant, I'm normally referencing the CPA, but you have to look at your resources and what is best aligned for you. because not all CPAs are created equal, but just like, not all bankers or anything else of that nature. I talk about how to pick your banker, how to pick your bank. I give you actually questions that that you'll want to use and ask, and kind of somewhat a way to kind of get a little bit of a gut check on finding out who's probably best for you and how to reference that, because you're going to need that regardless of where you're at, whether you're starting out or whether you're seasoned in your business. Having the right team makes all the difference. If you have an accountant that tells you write everything off, well, you're telling everyone that you don't make any money because you've written everything off. You said that you don't make money. And so lenders typically are going to say, okay, well, we're going to go with what you give the government. So if you lie to the government, that means you're going to lie to us. So those are different things that, that will be helpful for, any individual that's looking to maybe upgrade their accounting, upgrade their some of their relationships. Really, at the end of the day, a fourth one I would add in there would be insurance agent. Another one might be your real estate agent. So some people think that they need to go in and immediately buy a building. Some people may think that they need to be leasing a building for forever. Maybe so having the right person that's not just transactional, is looking at your long haul, looking at what's the best interest for you and your desires, your dreams, your pursuits, goes a long way. And a lot of these questions, they can, you can, piggyback off those questions and relate them in a somewhat different way in terms of who you're interviewing and interacting with.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, three powerful things that came out of everything you said was you're going to teach somebody a process. You talked about the relief model. You're going to expand on this concept of teamwork and how you find the right agents, the right people for you, the right fit for you culturally, energetically, those kind of things. I think that's powerful. But the thing that I really like about what you're going to include in there is you're going to walk people through the questions they need to be thinking about. And I think about some of the best thought leadership or kind of work I've read in my field, the best books have been the ones that have got a plethora of questions, just this kind of bounty of things that you could be asking at specific stages. And so I love that. I think that's really, really cool. Who's on your team? Who's your close team? The people when this phone goes down, they're the ones you're going to be thinking about first. Who's on that team?
I think you have to look at it from a personal and a business level. Sometimes team members may be on both sides. So, on a personal level, family, friends. I don't pick my family and friends based on, any of those things we talked about, race, religion, things of that nature. I look at I also don't look for people who are going to just tell me what I want to hear. I prefer, in fact, that you do push back, argue with me on the things that, that I may want, or I might pursue, or I might believe. I have some people say, you work way too much. Well, okay. Well, I'd rather them tell me that than not, versus the ones who just say, hey, you know what, you're great. You do everything, awesome. So on the personal side, there's that. I have a lot of coaches and mentors, and that spills over personal and professionally. So a lot of what I've done, a lot of my success that I'm having, that I've had, is because I've continued to invest time and money into learning from other people. So there might be other content creators, there might be other peers, things of that nature. So I have different layers and levels of people that I work with, and then also have my own accounting team. As much as I do know and understand, or at least I think I know and understand as it relates to accounting, I can't be everywhere and do everything. Tax codes change all the time. So these are all things that you need to understand as an individual and as a business owner, is what is it going to cost me and what are my opportunities? I have different lawyers I work with, that help me with whether it's my trademarking or my copywriting or just other things, bouncing off things that I don't want to ask a chat GPT or AI. I may want to ask a qualified professional.
Yeah.
Is this an insurance risk? Is this a legal risk? How can I do this so that way I don't get my hand slapped? So I look at that across the board. And then at the same time, you have the same people who look at, your insurance on your individual level, health insurance, in terms of disability, things of that nature. I always tell people, and I've been saying this for years, especially for entrepreneurs that are starting out, I tell them to take out a clean sheet of paper and just create a little dot somewhere in the middle of that piece of paper. And as you grow in resources and knowledge, keep drawing circles around that. And the more you accumulate, the more you put back into the economy, the more you put back in other people, the more you put back in your communities, the bigger that circle goes. And then I tell them to take that piece of paper and hold it out and look at it. What does it look like? It looks like a target, it looks like a bullseye. So you got to protect everything that you've built and that you've expanded on. And you have to keep that also still at center focus.
I love that. You are coming across as somebody who really lives by teamwork. You talked about the coaches and mentors. I loved at the beginning when people are testing whether you work too much. It made me think, well, if work has become your hobby, is that really a bad thing? I think that's a beautiful way to wrap this up. So I just want to say thank you for giving us your time and energy today. Thanks for being on the show. I know that at least one person who sees this is probably going to change their life, and I have no doubt they're going to reach out to you. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd love to get you back when that book is in market.
Absolutely.
And we wave the book at people on screen, and we can talk a little bit more about what's inside. That'd be a really good second show for you to come back on later.
Yeah, appreciate you having me anytime.
Thank you for paying attention for this short video. I know there are tons of you out there who would like to get more information just like the video we just went through. So if you just click this link, I'll see you on the inside where I'll be giving you more tools, tips, strategies, and methodologies for you to level up in your career or your mission. I'll see you inside.